Good evening, and thanks for joining us for Fox 18 News at 9. I'm Brian Gallagher. Eric Zizich has the night off. Jim and Ann, I'm live outside Wilson Elementary, where Briasia once attended school. Now we reached out to the superintendent for a comment, but he tells us he was too emotional to do an interview. Sheriffs across 39 states have signed this letter to President Biden. I spoke with Scott County Sheriff Tim Lane, who is one of those people who signed it. Now, he told me specifically the southern border needs to be secure. Jim, I'm outside the Rock Island Police Department, where it's been a difficult day for those in Illinois law enforcement, as House Bill 3653 was signed into law today.
Do we know if any of these offenses happened right here in the Quad Cities?
We did call the Scott County Sheriff's Office to see if at any point Stanger was on a sex offender registry list there. They say the record doesn't show him on that list, and we didn't see his name on a list in Wisconsin either. Taylor, several law enforcement officers and first responders were outside Unity Point Trinity Hospital here, but the scene has since died down, and now we can confirm that 2 officers have been shot. Jim, it's time to plug in those headsets and get to gaming for students at Rock Island High School. The 2024 presidential race is more than 3 years away, but potential Republican contenders are already starting to test the waters in Iowa. Jim, as it gets colder, our first responders work even harder, and there are a lot of additional factors to think about and prepare for in order for our first responders to get the job done. As for Davenport schools, they had counselors available to help students cope with the disappearance of Briasia, and they will continue to have those counselors available as they cope with her death. The teams will play once a week, and now gamers can finally tell their parents they aren't playing video games, they're just practicing. Live in the newsroom, I'm Brian Gallagher for Local 4 News. Stanger's last known residency was in Davenport at a home on North Elsie Street. Learning about all of the charges he faces in Wisconsin is a huge shock to neighbors and the current homeowner of his former house.
And just hearing that and knowing that that's something that may have happened in this house gives me really bad vibes.
Julia Lovell has lived on North Elsie Avenue in Davenport for 6 years, but didn't know their family home once housed a sex offender.
During around close towards Halloween, I wanted to check the sex offender list to see what houses were not possible to go to, because I know they're not allowed to pass out candy, and I had noticed that our house was actually on the registry.
Shane Stanger once lived in Julia's current house, who's been charged with more than 200 counts of sexual assault, sickening to Julia and long-standing neighbors.
It's really nerve-wracking because there's a lot of things that go around in the neighborhood that are becoming more positive now.
Pretty sad. When I was young, you could play outside all day and all night. Now you can't even let your kids go out without somebody being with them.
With this new information, Lovell hopes to see victims speak out.
I just really wish that anybody that was a victim of any kind of sexual crime, just speak out, because everybody's voice needs to be heard and all those perpetrators need to be brought to justice.
As for his recent charges, they are staggering. As we mentioned, he faces more than 200 counts. We have the entire list of those offenses at ourquadcities.com. 2 weeks ago, Jeg Wheats and his family received the news that his medication for his disease, Niemann-Pick type C, was being discontinued, which was a huge blow to his family.
It slows the progression of his disease. If you get treated, fast enough with not very many symptoms, it is shown to hold the disease at bay, and he has had no progression.
However, the drug company Mallinckrodt claims that after many trials there was no clear evidence of success, and they say the risk outweighs the benefit.
The risk, which is just high frequency hearing loss and the spinal tap, was too great, and we accept that there is a risk of the hearing loss, but it's fixable with a hearing aid. And the alternatives for Jeg are scarce. There's no FDA-approved drugs for his disease. There's one other option for these children. It's an oral medication, but it's not approved yet either, and all the data is not out there yet, and they're saying it might not work for kids under 10 as well as older.
But Jenna and the NPC community believe in this drug.
I can tell you so many stories of people whose kids were not walking. They're now walking and running and in ballet. They weren't talking, they weren't feeding themselves, and now they're doing all those things since receiving.
And Jeg's doctor has seen the drug work firsthand.
I have patients who've been stable and haven't gone downhill with the disease for like 6 or 7 years. And so we think that that has to be the effect of the drug. We just don't think that would be the natural history of the disease ever.
In Morrison, I'm Brian Gallagher, Local 4 News.
I'm here to win.
Rock Island High School's new esports program is officially in season, and students are excited for what the future holds.
Gaming in general is becoming more and more popular throughout the years. Esports isn't a new thing, but it's becoming greater and greater just in general around the world.
So popular that the purse for competitions can be in the millions.
The Fortnite Championship was played last year, and a 16-year-old won, and he won $3 million was his purse.
As the sport transitions into the school systems, the IHSA is looking how to classify the sport.
It's not actually an IHSA sport yet, so they're not really officially headed towards the state championship yet. It's an emerging sport with the IHSA, which means they're keeping track of it, seeing how many schools have programs, and probably in the near future they will move it into an actual IHSA sport.
An emerging sport that can fund a college education.
Colleges are offering scholarships for esports.
Nonetheless, a great opportunity for kids.
I think it's great because there are a lot of kids that want to play that have never played a sport before, so now they're feeling part of a team. I think it's just a great opportunity for...
Yeah. For Local 4 News, I'm Brian Gallagher. Trying to play video games here.